Richard, response to SEC motion for dismissal. So just want to look at this real quick. Dear Judge Amon, we represent Richard Schuler, goes by Richard Hart. Smith is respectfully stated dismiss the SEC's complaint. Blockchain is the first world to meet the ledger, publishing. Okay, a lot of points he's talked about on Twitter before too. Complaint alleges Mr. Hart developed 3 open source blockchain programs. Okay, some other programs fails. Interesting. Litigation is another front that regular blockchain technology through enforcement. Okay, so they're taking the enforcement angle instead of rulemaking and waiting legislation. Misguided complaint attacks certain blockchain software business rather than the global community individuals just around the communications programs. Yeah, I mean, a lot basically summarized a lot of his tweets that he's talked about and some of the videos recently too, the Merry Christmas one, where he also had some favorable, interesting words for Mr. Gensler. Mr. Hart exercising constitutional rights, free speech. Yeah, so to me, like my first reaction is, first of all, awesome to see some update or news or whatever, but also this is a response. So I think, I don't know who's been following the case and stuff closely as far as like, and Walrus added Nuclear Herbs, who does a great job covering this. Hexkin,
yes,
apparently.
Shout out to Nuclear Herbs. Big fan.
I can't wait to see his commentary. Yeah, I've actually asked him to come on the show, and I don't think he's going to right now, but I said, whenever you're ready, man, I would love to
come out.
I would love to have him. Yeah, I'd love to have him and like pick his brain on this stuff. But anyways, I think this is, I don't know. And again, I want to see what Nuclear Herbs has to say on the commentary, but this seems like the initial response. Everyone's like, oh, Richard, doesn't want to be found. There's all kinds of thought about hiding all this stuff. This kind of response seems like the first step of this, not only checking the box of responding and being available and answering or whatever, but also is just setting up the, if I were to speculate, there's probably all these lists of strategies. And like, this is the initial one to be like, all right, we're going to push this one forward, make sure this is on the record, and then maybe continue with some other ones later on. Depends on how this one goes, assuming it's not dismissed or otherwise. Anyways, that's my initial reaction. What do you, SJ, any thoughts?
I got to read it, but it's just exciting. Like, I mean, I've known you and I, especially, I think that this panel here, like, I feel like as people who have read Scivive or know more about Richard's background and know his heart, never doubted that. Like OMFE says, I never doubted him. Like I have always just felt that he was going to do the right thing. Like his name on Twitter isn't Richard Hart Win for no reason. He's confident and can be cocky because he's right. He's always right. And he's a great person at debates because he knows his shit. He takes the time to learn what he needs to learn in order to move forward. So it's no surprise to me that he took this time out of the limelight, away from the cameras, away from doing, any kind of marketing, because he needed to dig deep and really find out how to move forward with correct action in order for us to win in this case, because that's what he's about. He wants the glory. He wants the community to shine, and that's what we're going to do. I have no doubts. I never have. So I'm so excited. I can't wait to read over it. Like you said, Nuclear Herbs, I'm a huge fan of the content that he started putting out, and I think there's many people who've reached out to him to say, hey, come on my stream, let's talk about this, but he's not ready for that yet, which is fine. Like, all of us need to go at our own pace in terms of the content we put out, how we feel comfortable doing that, what it is that we need or want to do in this community. And it does, again, kind of little off topic here, but it does take all of us, you guys. Like, who knew that someone, who had a background in law was going to be so monumental and helpful to the community when, we're going through this kind of case and things like that. Like, it takes every type of person with every kind of gift, whatever your gift or talent is, there's probably something within this community that you can use it for and, be acclaimed for that. Right. So I think that's another part of the whole kind of spinning it back to longevity and survivalism, right? Is that group effort, right? Like lifting one another up and coming together, using our minds to really brainstorm, right? And bounce ideas off another one. One of the things that Richard talks about or mentioned several times in Scivive about longevity is, wouldn't it be awesome if Edison and Tesla and, you know, several of these geniuses were still alive today to work together, to build off of one another and what they had done in the past. So that's something that I think we can really take to heart and, you know, move forward together as a community to, you know, win this whole damn DeFi thing. Like, I'm excited about it.
For sure. Yeah. And there's a lot more to this. I'll just scroll down while we're having a discussion before we get back to Scivive again and longevity. But yeah, Brent, any reaction or any just notes have you been following it, the case mentioning community? Some people literally don't care. Some people are like, code runs, don't care, distraction, it'll go away eventually. What has been your perspective on it so far?
Yeah, thanks, Max. I just first want to say that what SA just said there was, what SJ just said there was incredible. That's almost like a tongue twister. So what SJ just said there. A lot of S's and I loved it. Now to answer Max's question, you know, I think I've joined about every month for the last few months on your stream, Max, and then I follow both of you all on X. And I think SJ asked me a question on X. It's hard to remember, maybe like a week or so ago, about kind of Richard and his business and his intelligence and stuff. Anybody could find this. I don't remember exactly what SJ said, but I remember I tried to prepare a well thought out answer, and it turned out to be, you know, kind of like maybe a big paragraph. And I basically said, from my experience, any communication with Richard has been that he's super smart, super well thought out, super long-term thinking, very quick to reply. The smartest people I know reply and communicate with just the most simplistic language possible. And Einstein said, make things as simple as possible and no simpler. And Richard does that with communication. I think I answered to SJ something along the lines of his marketing. You know, he talks about it on his live streams. He has multiple times for years why he does this type of marketing. It's to lure you in with the cars and the jewelry and everything, and then hit you with, you know, the science of whatever he is trying to explain, whether it's about cryptocurrency, originally Bitcoin, then other things. And he created his own. I mean, when I was watching Richard Hart live streams in 2017, I wasn't expecting him to do this. You know, he's just a guy I was listening to who seemed pretty smart, knows about Bitcoin. He didn't even talk about it back then. So that's how long I've been kind of following it. In any event, the point is that I haven't been following this case that close because I know what I believe, everything I've seen about Richard as far as him being super long-term thinker, following the laws, being morally correct. If you just first see Richard for the first time on Instagram, like walking out of Dolce & Gabbana with thousands of dollars of clothes, with all of his clothes, I can see how that can create a certain perception of who he is. But if you've studied him as much as I have and stuff, and watched the hours-long live streams and read Scivive, and I've interviewed him about longevity multiple times on our longevity channel, my Brent Nally channel. This guy's super smart. He's thought things through, very deep. And so I just personally have faith that things are going to work out for him. And I don't use that word faith like scientifically, religiously. I mean it kind of more scientifically. That's my current analysis. I don't know all the details. I'm actually going to shut up now. I'm curious to learn any more details from you guys. I kind of read the first page there and listened to you, Max, but I was listening to SJ, so I haven't even read any of the stuff you're scrolling through while she was talking or now I've been talking. So that's all for me.
Yeah, and by the way, I started off by saying, you know, this is just maybe the initial push by this, and then this is 4 pages packed full of very tightly written paragraphs and references. So I take that back. It sounds like this is, probably the initial. I'm going to speculate it's initial response and all this stuff, but it is packed full of just, you know, claims or I don't know what the words are for it, but pieces of information to defeat the SEC case. I'm going to say it like that, or meant to help in this too. So, I just want to say too, on all the people who hate Richard Hart, I'm going to speculate too, 90% of it, they seen some picture of him, they heard something he said, or they otherwise literally had this pedestrian view that they came across him once or twice, and they didn't like the way that he sounded or looked or something. And that's
you're running a pyramid scheme. It's like that's
exactly like this stuff.
Do you know who Richard Hart is? Have you ever watched a live stream of his? No, but he's running the pyramid scheme. Why do you think that? Because somebody else said it on Twitter. So I've had so many conversations with people like that, and I'm just like, okay, sure, bro.
Like the most uninformed people are the loudest. It seems like it's just crazy. It's like why should anyone listen to anyone who doesn't know anything about the guy? You know, I want you to listen to someone who's been following him since 2017, or someone who's been like reading his audiobooks, or you know, or like having a longevity conversation with him. Like listen to anyone else but random person on the internet who just feels the need to just like hate on somebody. It's so unwarranted. And even when people say, oh, you know, he's twerking, or he's, you know, hate me, I'll have more money than you ever had in your life, that kind of thing. He did it for a purpose. Like that's not like he wasn't doing it. Even if you give him the most generous interpretation of, yeah, he just wanted to be arrogant. He just wanted to be, you know, this figure. He wanted to be this thing. It was all for a purpose. The dude, everything you see him do is for a purpose. It is for a mission. And if you look at what he wants to do, he wants to have glory, and him getting glory. I'd rather him get glory than like 99% of people else in the world, because I know what he's in it for. I know what he's going to do with it, and hopefully it's going to save all of our lives. And that's like.
Can I say two things real quick here and tie it back into longevity, but keep it on the Richard Heart and on this point, which is that Richard Heart says he raised $27 million for medical research. And you can go back to I think it was like March or February 2020, when me and my longevity team interviewed Richard. He was like begging us and telling us, just call it medical research. And he's got like a whole chapter. He talks about this in Scivive. He's like, don't call it longevity or whatever. All those, he'd seen all the, you know, research and all of the surveys for years that the you know, global longevity community has done. And calling it medical research basically answers the question, the hypothetical question, Max, that you rose at the beginning of this live stream of like, well, if I'm just 25, you said you know your demographics of your YouTube channel, why would I care about that? Well, it's because if you call it medical research, then people think, oh, changes the monkey brain, like little, you know, way that you think about it. So language communication is really important. And I just want to drive home that somebody as smart as Richard that figured this stuff out years ago, and other things that he's figured out, I wouldn't put it past him that he's next level already, like literally planned from a PR perspective. He knew a lawsuit would come at some point. He's probably been preparing for this and has the right legal team plus his brain put together. So that's why I felt confident, because he's really smart. Nothing, I just want to back up what Max has said here. Nothing that Richard has done as far as being on video, like publicly on YouTube or Instagram or on his X account, none of that stuff has been just haphazardly done. He's been very strategic in the way he's branded himself. And he's playing a character to a certain extent with some of the stuff, but we're all playing characters to a certain extent. This is what like Jim Carrey talked about when people thought Jim Carrey went crazy in 2017. I'm like, no, he went sane. Jim Carrey realized that as a little kid, he didn't name himself Jim Carrey. He is playing a character. We all are. And he said the most interesting character I've ever played is myself, Jim Carrey. And when I realized that, I realized I didn't need to keep acting. That's why he actually stopped acting for a little bit. In any event, that's what Jim Carrey said. And it's like next level. You think about it. And yeah, I think that Richard has been very carefully branding himself and Hex and Pulse and Scivive and these type of things. And so I wouldn't put it past him that this, like Streisand effect, will take him to the next level and he'll get through it and be validated. Because when people put all these resources into a case and there's nothing there, there's no meat there, then people are like, well, this was a witch hunt. And then people move on. That's just the psychology of how this, in any event, that's my perspective.
Well, just it always frustrates me when people criticize, for example, Elon Musk. They'll be like, oh, I don't like Elon because he said something I didn't like on Twitter, or they'll like unsubscribe. Or you see famous people all the time. They're like, oh, I'm not on Twitter anymore because I don't like Elon, or you did or said something. And I'm just like, you're missing the point. Like, first of all, no one's perfect. Second of all, let's say everything that he did that you don't like is justified. Let's say you're right. Like whatever he did, he was wrong to do it. Let's say that. What the hell does it matter? He's solving major world problems. Like there's nothing wrong with feedback and having an opinion, but taking support away from a guy who's working on things that a million people put together couldn't solve without his resources and his time and his willpower, that's the tragedy. Like that's what nobody wants to like admit or realize. Like he's doing things no one else can do. Let's give him a break. How about that? Like that kind of thing. And I think it's the same parallel with Richard. That's the way I feel about it.
100% is what I'll say. I think right now Elon Musk is getting investigated by like 6 different federal government alphabet soup little organizations, and you literally have the sitting president of the United States of America, Joseph Biden, state about a year ago, a little bit more ago, when asked at a press conference, and he normally doesn't even answer press conference questions, which is so crazy that you have a president that hardly does it, and you're about to find out the reason why, because his handlers know that like he shouldn't be talking at all, you know, anywhere public with recording. But what he said when he was asked by the reporter, like, should Elon Musk be investigated at this point because of all his companies and powers? And Joe Biden said, yeah, I mean, I guess you should. And they're like, well, how would you do that? And Joe Biden looks down. Anybody can find this. It's on YouTube. It's not a deep fake. And Joe Biden's like, we have our ways. I mean, dude, that's like a mob boss. And he literally told, that's what he said. Anybody can go look it up. And he said it pretty much just the way I described it. And what do you have about a year and a half later, 6 different federal investigations of Elon Musk. One of them is for apparently Tesla building him a glass house in Texas, you know, for him.
There's all kinds of stuff. There's the one where they're not hiring enough immigrants or something on for national security clearance. It's just
the clown world goes on. Elon's posted many times like there's no house. Tesla's not building me a house. He lives in a little $50,000. You realize he's gone so crazy backwards. Elon Musk has. He's living in like a $50,000 house, sold all his mansions just to say, hey, I'm just trying to do good, putting all my money into Tesla and SpaceX to make the world better. I'm sacrificing, I'm working 100-something hours. I'm doing this all for humanity. Still, the government, the powers that shouldn't be, hate him. They're coming for him. So in this, my whole point is anybody, I'm not going to dig through this. You guys, the whole community, look through it. Tell me anything in here that's worth a damn that says that he's done something, not government BS, but just like actually wrong, and then you'll have my ear. Until then, it's just the more famous you get, the more successful you are, you're gonna have your haters come for you. That's the way, unfortunately, reality works right now. It's the way I see it.
Yeah, he's went out of his way to stay out of trouble. Like in so many different phrases he's repeated over and over. I don't work for you. You know, this is, you know, so many different ways. Like not giving you know, forward-looking statement. All this stuff. Anyways. I don't know why people think he's gonna lose. The dude is a winner, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing that if he wins, what is bad about him winning? That's another thing. I'll just bring that real quick. What is bad about Richard winning? Tell me the negative side effect. Tell me the bad thing that happens if Richard wins. He gets glory. He gets to solve all these problems. He gets to, you know, do longevity. He gets to his people who follow him, who are in here with good, you know, a lot of good morals, a lot of good principles, a lot of, you know, living better lives, all this stuff. Who's affected? Where's the victim, right? Like, what's the downside of him winning? Like, just because he dressed funny one time and you didn't like it, what's the downside? I don't see any downside. Like, what's the downside of meditation? What's the downside? I don't see any. Like, what's the downside of Richard winning? Let it, like, he should win. He deserves to win. So, anyways, I just want to read this last part real quick too. Mr. Hart intends to dismiss the complaint, foregoing reasons, potentially others. Parties have met and conferred and jointly request the following briefing schedule. So yeah, they're requesting a schedule, motion due in April. So we got some more dates here to look forward to, I guess. Start expected to schedule a pre-conference and approve the approved briefing schedule. And it's got his, now here you go. Here's this crack legal team. I'm sure people will be looking at them and seeing what kind of experience they have. And I imagine some of the best in the world. I mean, we know he can afford it. So that's pretty cool too. I'm interested to see these people backgrounds and stuff, and I appreciate them. Shout out to them for, you know, obviously I'm sure they're being paid money, but at the same time, like I hope that when we win, like the gratification of winning a case and getting justice for people wrongly accused of things and actually doing more good in the world is also satisfying. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there'll be plenty of streams that'll go through, dissect every piece again. Shout out to Herb, what's his name? Nuclear Herbs. Yeah, I can't wait to see his analysis as well, and I'm sure we'll cover it more on the show. But breaking big news. Definitely want to cover that while we're live on stream. Really cool. Shout out to Richard Hart. Hang in there, big guy. We got you. You got this. So, battling.
Max,
you guys want to live forever? What's up?
I was saying real quick, I was muted, but it seems like breaking things happen when we stream together. So we need to.
I was thinking, I was like, so many times PulseChain launched, SA was here. Like you and Axis. Yeah, I'll put it up.
Yeah. Off the news.
I like it.
Oh my gosh. Like, I mean, literally okay, I'll say this before we move on to, I did a stream this morning. I talked about all the green candles and the reasons for that, and a lot of interesting things happening right now. And then Richard comes out, or this motion gets filed. And then also somebody mentioned in the chat that Richard turned on comments.
Yeah.
And then it's possible he has a slot available at the HEX conference later. Will he show up? Will he show up? Is this the time for his return? Is this the time? I don't know, but like there's a lot of things lining up that are very interesting. So